Well, hello again, and welcome to Tuppy Diggers, Chapter 14. I'm your host and narrator, Montgomery Sterling McGale, and helping me, of course, is the lovely and talented Miss Sharon. Say hello, young lady.
Hello.
Let's get right to it. Chapter 14 is entitled Excess. Variety of food can boggle the mind. Sworn duty of a 16-year-old is to consume massive quantities. One doesn't nibble about the edges with concern for etiquette or social norms. No, sir. Dive in and binge on all the colors. Yellow is for corn on the cob, dripping with the lard of cow's cream. White is for vanilla ice cream that froths in brown root beer. Shades of gray are industrial hamburger patties that adorn beige buns with red ketchup and ochre cheese. Rainbow of foods that Klondike's Edmonton days had to offer was inspirational, and we intended to become fully inspired. Greg Danger, Mike, and Steve Bruslers, together with myself, formed the Four Musketeers. We didn't have muskets, but we did have a mission. Tear through Klondike days and become intimate with a few of the 7 deadly sins. Might as well start with gluttony. 10 days of exhibition fun in the summer of 1975 brought thousands of merrymakers to the fairgrounds of Edmonton, Alberta's Northlands Park. We were amongst the revelers, 4 teens with a willingness to outdo each other in a low-stakes game of who can be the most moronic. We had a mandate: live it up. Bellies need food and food needs bellies, goes the saying Confucius made famous in the 6th century when he snatched the grasshopper from a Shaolin master's hand and gobbled it before his sensei could kick him in the beanbag. Student had become master as he blocked his teacher's lightning right foot with knuckles of his clenched fist. Marbles denied of intense pain. Whoosh! Fight would have ended with student in a fetal ball on the floor. But no. So, my master, you have taught well. I block attempt on beanbag, thwart kick to crotch. Time for me to leave, I quipped in my best chinky chan voice. Yes, my son, you mighty fine for white boy. Time to leave Shaolin Temple. Take beanbag and enter big world. Greg replied with an equally slanted tone to his voice. We both froze in our kung fu poses of exaggerated facial expression featuring buck teeth. Flavor of the day, our actions were all about the foo and the gung. Proper sound effects accompanied all moves of violent nature. Crack of a whip was there when a fist stopped millimeters in front of a face. Imaginary nunchuck sticks whirred through the air before coming to rest on the skull of each other as the plausible sound of the deadly weapons flew from our mouths. We entertained ourselves with fake fights while skipping through crowds of people. Come on, corn on the cob! Let's bulk up, boneheads, cried the perennially hungry Greg. And we did. Cobs were chewed to the knob, butter ran down chins as we went hog wild on the sweet yellow kernels.
Yum, yum, yum.
Mike informed us of his Dutch heritage. Nobody in Holland would be caught dead with a cob of corn in their mouth, as it is strictly for pigs, not worthy of human consumption, totally beneath him. Now pass the salt, this pig food needs a pinch. Loaded on the goodness of corn, we continued our kicking and punching advance to nowhere in particular. Rides in the midway weren't our cup of tea, as all of us had a fondness for not spinning wildly, and if you had to pay for the privilege, then all bets were off. 3 out of 4 in our little group wore glasses. I like to think that had something to do with our disdain for dizziness, and not because we were genetically flawed. We were, but that's another story. Let's check the racetrack, says Steve. What racetrack? Greg, the huge horse racing track, you know, Northlands, says Mike. Oh, yeah, says Greg in the same breath. Hey, look, strawberry pie. One of the many food vendors had numerous brightly glazed red pies, strawberry delight. We bought a pie, had it quartered and slathered with whipped cream. We hogged into it, all were uplifted by its goodness. This is so good, I bet I could eat a whole pie, came my boast. Yeah, right, you couldn't eat a whole pie if your life depended on it. I could eat a whole pie, came Greg's taunt. We all knew Superman muscled Greg would have no problem with such a simple task. What hung in the balance was my self-imposed challenge. Could I possibly eat a whole pie? Mike and Steve rose to the challenge. I'd pay to see that. So would I. Okay, I'll tell you what. Get me a whole pie with whipped cream, and if I can't eat it all, I'll pay you back, says brave me. Deal, Mike and Steve in unison. 2 minutes later, I looked at a generous amount of whipped cream with a strawberry pie hidden beneath. Nice. First quarter went down in record time. Very enjoyable. Could have stopped there and been superbly content. After all, there were 2 generous slabs at rest in my belly, above a mound of buttered corn chunks. I glowed with a rosy forehead. This wasn't about satisfaction. This was about rising to a dare and being a moron. Time to man up. Next piece. Surprised myself at how briskly it went down. Abundance of airy cream caused a belch halfway through that eased the building pressure. Nothing but air. Good sign. Penultimate piece. Let me know things wouldn't be as easy. Vibrant flavor of previous mouthfuls transformed, and not all of a sudden, but gradually, to a more sodden chew that felt heavy and syrupy.
Uh-oh.
Bead of sweat formed on my brow as internal organs shifted gears and applied for overtime. My adoring fans saw the change from cocky to wide-eyed and quiet. Plastic fork had performed admirably, thought about laying it down and admitting defeat. After all, I'm just a man, mortal, full of foibles and doubt. What the hell am I talking about? I didn't lay any fork down. This was about pushing the envelope. I tore into the last piece like a mud turtle, nice and slow. Burp, hint of solid.
Oops.
Forced back with mind over matter martial arts training. Fellow stooges had a grand time teasing me in a bid to make me hurl. Nothing doing. Slowly ground the last morsel between molars as my belly rose. Skin stretched over a watermelon. Stomach was a pressure cooker. Finished my goal and stood up. Pie stayed down.
Oh,
Triumph
great job.
of modern man. Chalk one up for the challenger.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check out the racetrack. Pointed my watermelon in its general direction. 4 musketeers on the move. Grandstands were packed. Not deterred, came to see some horses run, and that's what we were going to do. Steve noticed at the end of the stands a silver roof that was illuminated by the blazing sun. Maybe we can hop the handrail and watch the horses from there. Sounded good to us. We wormed toward the unofficial roof deck that was visible to hundreds in the stands, but only accessible by those who dared climb over the rail. Settled in, our vantage gave a great view of the track. Bright sun warmed us and reflected from the silver roof we stood on. People cheered their favorite horses as they thundered around the track. We wondered what the fuss was about. This isn't very exciting, Greg offered. You're right, it's kind of dull. Good thing we didn't have to pay to get in. Sun-baked down made me hot and woozy. Reflected light from the flat surface added to the ill feeling. Pressure cooker belly built an intensity that was hard to resist.
Uh-oh.
Contents were fully cooked and yearned for freedom. Release valve primed, clear saliva ready delivery canal, crowd quieted, anxious for the next round of pleasure. Silence shattered with a Ralph of gargantuan proportions.
Oh, no.
I lay down the biggest, most beautiful pink circle with yellow accents of puke any human being could ever hope to muster.
Yuck.
Thousands of eyes turned to seek the source of the blood-curdling hurl as my fellow musketeers jumped back from the splash zone. I insisted on a second movement. With a mighty honk, added more paint to the canvas. Communal moan rose from the crowd. Fan base was substantial. Mike, Steve, and Greg added to the verbal adulation. I paused. Straightened from my hands on knees position. A third act? Did I have it in me? After all, my painting was 3 feet in diameter and expanding like batter on a hot griddle.
Ew.
What the hell? Stood for a moment. Woozy, voices, eyes, all in my direction. Bent slightly forward, face overtopped the most gorgeous uniform pink pool with rental corn highlights of recycled strawberry pie a human could produce. Held up an arm, index finger raised. Uno mas. Needed a couple of seconds for pressure to build. There it was. Third installment. Not as impressive as the first two, nonetheless, an attention-grabbing arching of the back and proper decibel-rich retching brought another column of pink triumph to the stage. 3 acts. That's all I had in me. I knew it. The crowd knew it. Time to take a bow. I did. Warm applause and a few shrill whistles was uplifting as I felt 100% better. Pats on back from Greg, Mike, and Steve as we took our leave was confirmation my 4-foot creation would be admired by many. Thank you and good night. You've been a great audience. Waved and walked. Roaming the fairgrounds once again, we looked for inspiration. Could come in any form, had to be ready. Anybody hungry? I'm feeling a little empty, says I. You should be hungry. You turned yourself inside out back there, says Mike. I could use a little something, says Greg. You could always use a little something, says Steve. Root beer floats and onion rings. Perfect combo. Sweet and savory. While onion rings cooled, it was common knowledge that one must finish half the root beer in order that the less than generous ball of ice cream had the proper ratio of soda to soak in, thus imbuing it with the required crystalline structure that would reward one's mouth and senses with a subtle crunch factor that would otherwise have been lost to the humanities had your prescient actions not been executed in a timely manner. Refocused on onion rings. Time to contemplate our next move. Hey, are the Beach Boys playing here? Pipes Greg. Supposed to be. I have a program in my pocket.
The real Beach Boys?
Mm-hmm. Best be checking it out. Looks like they're playing 2 shows today, 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock, says Steve. 3 o'clock? That's in half an hour. Let's go! Inspiration arrived. Found a ticket booth and made our way to the venue. A few thousand people were already inside the Coliseum. Festive mood greeted us as half a dozen beach balls were smacked about by a buoyant crowd. Frisbee made an appearance and was sloppily flopped forward by a rookie. Bonk someone on the back of the head. If you can't throw a Frisbee nice, don't throw it at all. Words bellowed by Steve above the din. We all had Frisbee finger. From hours of throwing the marvelous toy back and forth, hard to call it a toy when a lifetime of skill and effort can be dedicated to developing proficiency with Whammo's creation. And now, here to entertain you tonight, direct from Hawthorne, California, the fabulous Beach Boys. Unseen announcer boomed. Sure enough, it was them.
Oh, wow.
All the originals. Nobody had died and been replaced. None had gone loco yet and locked themselves into seclusion. This was 1975. They were all alive. Crowd roared its approval after each hit. We loved their music, some of us more than others. Scantily clad Edmonton Eskimo cheerleaders danced across the stage during one number. High kicks were a thing of beauty. Over far too soon. Even the encore was not enough. Back outside in the light of day, need sustenance. There it was, Kinsman barbecue. Half a chicken each with fries and pop. Another gastronomic pleasure was about to be washed down with sugary soda. Your choice of beverage, sir? Root beer. Is there any other as obvious? That can cut through layers of lard, cleanse your palate, and have your pie hole ready for the introduction of more? I think not. What about Coca-Cola? Please. That pop is all about itself. Doesn't go well with anything. How about Orange Crush? Too sweet. It might complement a bag of chips and cut through salt, but it's far too syrupy to do chicken justice. Same for Mountain Dew. No, root beer is your baby. Our impromptu debate in front of the counterman as we awaited platters of poultry ended with a statement. 4 root beers, my good man. Coming up. Another fine Klondike meal in the vault. This gluttony thing is a piece of cake. Did someone say cake? I know where we can get a strawberry pie, says Mike.
Oh, no, not another.
Been there, done that, made the painting. Mini donuts, says Steve? Damn straight. Greg's eyes glazed at the thought. Doughy ringlets, deep fried in lard, too much sugar, and just a hint of cinnamon, perfect. Carney Land Confection. Invented by a culinary genius. A large bag each, and don't spare the grease. Little machine spat rings of batter into boiling oil at a regular pace as we watched the process just beyond the grease-stained glass of the well-traveled specialty trailer. Distorted disco music blared from unseen speakers as we chewed donuts to the rhythm. Mike says, I'll bet Monty could eat 4 bags of donuts. Steve says, I'd pay to see that. Greg says, I'll bet he couldn't. He's a wuss. Monty says, I know I'm a wuss. With challenge diffused, Greg adorns fingers of his left hand with numerous rings of mini donuts. I love these so much I'm going to marry them. Devours donuts from his rosy palm with matrimonial gusto. Greg reminded us of our gluttony goal. Finished our donuts while perusing the grounds. Noise and confusion were the main attractions as a steady stream of people pulsed through the fair. Need more inspiration. In our attempt to explore and leave no rock unturned, we broke away from the main walkway and sought what was off the beaten path, behind exhibitors, around corners, in nooks and crannies. Found ourselves in back of a huge canvas tent. By the noise was full of people playing bingo. Barker did his job calling numbers. Hubbub told us the place was packed. Canvas wall from the backside presented us with a massive panel and one anomaly. A man, judging by the voice, leaned against the tent's wall while seated at a bingo table. Bulge of his backside pushed the canvas slightly outwards. Greg whispers, "Watch this." Quickly backs a number of paces. Before any of us could figure out his plan, muscular legs had Greg in full sprint to where we stood. 5 feet from the bingo palace, Greg lifted both legs into the perfect form of a double boot drop kick.
Oh my gosh.
Connected with the bulge in the canvas, direct hit, sweet spot, a man's back. Oh
no!
Involuntary sound from his lungs was loud. Matched by the cussing that immediately followed, vengeance was sworn as a clamor of confusion emanated from beyond the canvas. Cursing was enjoyed for a nanosecond. Didn't stick around to enjoy a face-to-face as we heard the booted victim hustling to right himself and seek justice for his crack to the back. We melded into the mainstream as tears of laughter filled our eyes. Our foray into Klondike days was all about gluttony. Mission accomplished. And then some.